So I want to talk about Summerhill School as part of Assignment 7. It was certainly everybody's read about the characteristics of it, but one of the hallmarks is that really it was kind of a free school, that illustration of that kind of progressive concept where students were the center. And the self-government was a piece of it, freedom to make their own kids' own decisions about play and learning, whether they attended formal lessons or not. They worked through the democratic concepts of self-government through those general meetings weekly, and I think that sense of community also was a big piece of Summerhill School's success with the students that were there. There have been other schools since that have kind of illustrated the concepts of summer school in the U.S. And certainly those concepts of student-centered programming and a student-centered focus are, you can see that in contemporary public education in the U.S. for sure. What I think is, there are several differences. Certainly kids don't decide what it is they learn and when they learn and how much they want to participate in organized learning opportunities in school. We design that as their teachers. But I think some other things that are similar in our schools, albeit not the same, are the democratic concepts of participation and citizenship and what it means to be part of a larger community of a school and how those democratic concepts work, and conflict resolution and problem solving, and all those are big pieces of contemporary public education, I would say, in the U.S. But certainly there are big differences. We don't, like I said, we just don't allow kids to make those decisions about what they will and won't participate in. Or I guess we do with natural consequences, but we have to adhere to state and federal guidelines around testing and student outcomes. One of the things that, as I was researching this, that I didn't know anything about, I certainly know about homeschool and school choice and that kind of thing. And certainly that fits within the context of what we're looking at with the progressivism concept. But what I didn't know anything about were unschools. I'm not sure if other people know about these, but that to me probably embodies this idea of Summerhill more than anything, where kids are at home and not necessarily homeschooled, but can choose whether to participate in learning activities or not and kind of decide what it is they want to learn for the day. And that's interesting, I think. I don't know that that's a new concept. It's just one I hadn't heard about, and I read more about it as I was researching for the paper. It is interesting, right, in this political climate, this kind of reaction to traditional models of education and what that looks like. And it makes me wonder, and something I read was how much of this has to do with our generation, the generation below me anyway, who are having kids that have gone through that experience of self-actualization, where our education has probably been more student-centered in the last 30 or 40 years than it ever has been. And how much of that self-actualization of the parents drives these movements we want that we're seeing now, kind of in contrast to public education, of unschooling and homeschooling and school choice, and how much of that is really a reflection of parents' need to fulfill their self-actualization and project that on their students. So I think within the next 20 years or so, the next generation, it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like, because in contrast to that, then a lot of kids are over-scheduled and kind of over-structured and over-parented, and you just wonder how that's all going to play out over the course of the next generation. So anyway, it's an interesting read for sure, and interesting to think about how that looks with our public schools and what that looks like as we move forward.